Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Reacts. Guys, the newest episode of The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 6, entitled Always Accountable, just finished airing on TV, and I'm here to review / just talk about the episode. So if you have not seen the newest episode of The Walking Dead, Always Accountable, click away now. I'm getting into spoilers. Are you gone? Are you gone? I'm getting into spoilers. Okay, let's jump into it now, guys. The Walking Dead, Always Accountable. This episode features Abraham, Sasha, and Daryl. Those are the three characters we're focusing on in this episode. I wished we were focusing on a few more of the characters, but we're stuck with Daryl, Sasha, and Abraham, and it was a pretty decent episode. And so what's really interesting about this episode is that the group kind of separates from the three. Daryl's on his own, and then Sasha and Abraham are together, and they've separated from the group, from these attackers. So we're going to talk about individually all three characters and all that kind of stuff, and basically what they were going through in this episode, and then I'll talk about basically my positives and my negatives for this entire episode, and then we'll be done with this review. So anyways, let's get to first Daryl, because I felt like his part of the story after he got separated from his little mini group of Sasha and Abraham was the most interesting, because they gave this new dynamic of these group of attackers who eventually, like at the very beginning, they were like riding along, leading the zombies away from Alexandria, and these group of attackers separate Sasha and Abraham together, and then Daryl's by himself from these group of attackers. And so Daryl ends up in the forest, and the bike's messed up, he's just scooting along, and then I think he hears something or whatever, he starts running or whatever, and all of a sudden he comes across these two girls. And then he turns right around and bam, gets hit by this guy. And when this little dynamic started happening where he's captured by these three individuals and they're leading him around in the forest, I'm like, okay, something's going to happen to one of these characters, or all three are going to die. Because these are no-name characters, you really don't care about them. They had that vibe of one of them or all of them are going to die in this episode, because Daryl's somehow going to get out of the situation, so it's going to end up great, right? Well, as it turns out, the blonde who needed insulin died basically trying to mourn over two, she thought, dead bodies, that people that she apparently knew, and they ended up attacking her and basically biting her. So that kind of happened there. And then it got more interesting because those two characters that survived, the guy who hit Daryl in the face, had a gun to his head, all this kind of stuff, and the other girl that doesn't seem like she's a violent person, but she's overall just like, I'm going to go with this guy because he has a gun and he knows what he's doing. They steal Daryl's bike and crossbow. I'm like, oh, this is so irritating. I cannot wait till Daryl kills at least the guy. The girl, I'm not really sure. She seems like she's just tagging along, but the guy who basically assumed Daryl was one of the bad guys that was that was part of this big group of shooters and all this kind of stuff. They're very vague on these attackers that showed up in the beginning and kind of in the middle on Daryl's end with the three other people he was basically, involved with, essentially. So at least I want to see Daryl kill that guy. Not the girl so much, she gets bitten, oh well. So that was basically his part of the story. He ends up losing the bike and losing the crossbow, but he does end up eventually with the group with Sasha and Abraham. So on Sasha and Abraham's side, I felt like their story was okay, but it was when Abraham went out on his own that it really got interesting. Now, Sasha, Abraham, there's kind of a connection there, like maybe are they gonna come together, maybe not. Abraham definitely seems like he's interested in Sasha, and as we all know, at the end of season 5 of Walking Dead, Sasha is crazy, laying in the pile of dead bodies. She has lost her mind. So I'm not really sure if Abraham wants to end up with that, but if he does, okay. So why it got interesting for Abraham is that when he went out looking for stuff and he was on like this bridge, he comes across a military truck. There's RPGs, but there's no rocket launcher to shoot said RPGs. And then of course a zombie soldier that's hanging off kind of the edge, kind of like a part of a fence essentially sticking through him, like the pole. So he's just hanging there. And then Abraham gets on the fence trying to grab the RPG off the guy because he has the rocket launcher strapped around him. And it got really creepy because the camera was shaking and doing these weird movements, and the zombies trying to bite Abraham and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, holy crap, they're going to kill off Abraham. Or at least he's going to get bit and lose an arm or something, because it was getting really intense. I'm like, oh God, please. He has turned into one of my personal favorite characters of the show. Do not do this to me just yet. Give him a few more episodes, please. So eventually he got the RPG from the zombie that eventually just broke off the skin and it fell and hit the ground below and all that kind of stuff. And so there was that angle where he almost died or he almost got bitten and he was just kind of like losing it a little bit. But overall, he's like, I have a plan, I have a vision, I want to be with you, Sasha. So it was definitely a weird thing for Abraham, but it was interesting to kind of see this angle of him essentially in this episode. Now, like I said, they eventually end up back together. Daryl finds a gas truck and they're driving back and he's trying to radio in, and I believe someone on the other end, right before it went to black screen, said help. Now, who said it? I don't know. I really wish like they're being very vague. Now, here's my theory. Finally getting into almost 6 minutes. I just thought about this. I literally just popped in my head. What if help was from Glenn? Silence. Because I really... what if it is? What if it was Glenn? I just thought about that. Because I remember hearing help and going, okay, maybe it's that... It can't be that guy. It can't be the guy who took the bike because he didn't take the radio. Or maybe he did, and he's radioing for Daryl and them to come back and help. Or is it Glenn? And that's the big tease. Oh, there's so many questions. But overall, positive-wise, this was a pretty good episode. I really wish it featured a couple more characters like Rick and all that kind of stuff. I want to see the continuation of what happened last week with Rick and Jesse. I believe that's her name, Jesse. And overall, Carol and Morgan. But, you know, for me, this is a pretty good episode. It's definitely had some action, definitely had some pretty intense moments. And I'm really curious about who these attackers were and basically what their whole deal is. But hopefully they'll get into a little bit more of that. So what did you guys think of Always Accountable? Let me know in the comment section below. What was your personal favorite part of the episode? All that kind of stuff. Thank you guys for watching my review of this episode. Peace out.